Hi, it's Mark Laughlin. It's a continuation of the first video, so to speak, in my series on carrying a weapon for self-defense, whether it's concealed carry or open carry. Now, the first question is, should you carry? Now, carrying a weapon concealed or open, it really kind of limits you. And the reason is because you have to think about the potential escalation of just simple daily events. Now, Tim Larkin, in his terrific book, When Violence is the Answer, makes a distinction between social and asocial aggression, or social and asocial violence. Now, social violence you could think of as like when you go to a bar and some people are kind of a little bit of bluster and bluffing, and it's more for social hierarchy, establishing kind of a social pecking order. Whereas asocial violence is really just an attempt to kill or maim you. Now, the reason you need to think of this is because when you are carrying a deadly weapon for self-defense, you have an obligation to shed insults, or an obligation, because you have an obligation to avoid escalating conflict that could lead to deadly violence. You have to exhibit a certain honor in restraining your impulses to react to provocation. Now, what I want you to do is think of a couple of examples to help concretize this idea. Imagine that you're in a bar and some guy says, "You are a fucking pussy." Now that's a bit provocative, and you might want to potentially throw down and have a little fist fight over the issue. But you do not just because someone calls you a fucking pussy, whip out your gun and go, "Yeah, fuck you, brother," and blast him in the face. So think of if this guy says, "You fucking pussy." Now, would it make sense for you to grab him, throw him to the ground, hold his head while he's screaming, and you dig your thumb into his eye socket, dig his eyeball out, grip that eyeball, and rip the optic cord right out of his head? Would you like to explain doing exactly that because someone called you a fucking pussy in a court of law, or just to your friends and family? Or say you're out in public and some guy says, "Oh, your wife is such a slut." Now, it could be considered a rather provocative statement, and you feel like you might want to punch the dude. But again, if you're carrying a weapon for self-defense, a deadly weapon like a firearm, you've got to try to put a cap on that escalation of violence. So think of it as, okay, this guy says your wife is a slut. And imagine that you grab him and you toss him to the ground and he's laying face down and you do a knee drop right on the back of his neck and it goes crack. And if he's not dead, he's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Now, are you going to be comfortable explaining that in a court of law or to your family and friends over someone calling your wife a slut? Now, let's get one more example just to really drive this home. Now, if, say, someone says, "You've got jizz breath, and yeah, I hate you. You quit looking at me. Who are you fucking looking at, you douchebag?" Kind of provocative. Now, would you feel comfortable explaining this reaction? Say you pick up a big old stone and bash him in the head until his skull is a crushed, misshapen mess of blood and brains? No, it's not the appropriate reaction. Sure, you might want to get into fisticuffs over it, but if you're carrying a firearm for self-defense or another deadly weapon, you must back off and attempt to de-escalate the situation. This isn't easy to do. So anyway, if you want to throw down over things like this, and I'm not necessarily have a problem with that, but if you want to throw down over these insults, these daily little insults, leave your deadly weapon at home. There's nothing cool about what's under consideration in the following videos. Self-defense with a deadly weapon is not pretty. It is actually pretty fucking repulsive. Now, if you're still willing, keeping that in mind, that you have to be that cap on escalation of violence, please come to the next video, and hopefully we'll have some great ideas for you in becoming a better concealed carry weapons holder or carrying a deadly weapon. So please, check if you're willing to do that. Please check out the next video, and hopefully it can help make you a better self-defense person. Thank you.